Hey y'all, this is Greg with Hughes Railroad. I just thought I'd do a quick little introduction, maybe a little tour of my O-scale layout that I've been working on for a couple years, and just give a little quick intro about me. Name's Greg. I've been in the hobby about 2 years now. Actually, this New Year's Eve weekend at the end of the year will be the official 2-year mark for me on working on this layout that's sitting behind me here. Got into the hobby because of two reasons. One, a couple years back, I went to visit my cousin down in Savannah, and he got to talking to me about his trains, and I'm like, trains, like toy trains? What are you talking about? And he goes, man, these ain't toys. And he's been in the hobby for 20 years, and I mean, he's got an unbelievable collection. He's really big into the passenger sets, mostly Lionel that he has, but 20 years worth of it. And I'm looking at these things, and I had no idea how prototypical and detailed these model trains were. Now, I had train sets growing up as a kid, HO scale, probably is what I had. It was just probably HO. I'm into the O scale, is what I'm in, which is a 1/48 scale. Basically, every 1/4 inch is equivalent to a foot in real life. So when I'm on my modeling here, I do everything on 1/4 inch scale and try to build everything as prototypical as possible. But anyhow, he introduced me to this hobby and got me really looking into it. And then I've got 3 grandboys, 5, 3, and a 1-year-old. And my oldest grandboy really was into trains. And my middle one that's 3 now, JJ, he's really gotten into them big time, with Papa doing this, But Charlie, my oldest grandson, he was, into Thomas and Friends, and he was all about trains. We took him on a couple train rides, and you go to Dollywood and ride the old heavy Mikado they have there. And, anyhow, for them, getting introduced by my cousin and then wanting something to do with my grandboys that, like, I loved my 2 grandfathers growing up. One of them taught me how to work, and the reason I'm an electrician today, 3rd generation, and the other one, taught me how to hunt and fish, and they both taught me values of life and being respectful to your neighbor and a lot of good things. But I have so many memories of my grandfathers. I wanted something for me and my grandboys. So one day they look back and think of me, I think this is something that they'll have memories forever. And Lord knows I'm enjoying it with them. So that's why I got into it. And I spent about 3 months doing nothing but watching YouTube videos. One of the first ones that my cousin turned me on to was Eric Siegel. His channel's Eric's Trains. He's also been in the hobby about 20 years. And you get to watch some of his early on videos, and you really got to dig in there to find some of this stuff. But he had a lot of tutorials on how to, and his knowledge and education on the history of these different locomotives and stuff was just fantastic. I mean, all in all, he just seems like a great guy. I hope I have a chance to meet him in person one day. I know he does an open house with this layout every year, and unfortunately I won't be in town to be able to go see that, but maybe one of these years I can, or bump into him at Legacy Station. But he was an inspiration, just watching him and his amazing layout. There's a guy, Sean, his channel was Sean's Trains, maybe. Sean, I can't think of it. He got out of the hobby, though, this year. He sold his amazing layout, and he had to move, and for whatever reason, he had to part ways with the hobby. But he had a lot of great tutorials and how-to videos, and I mean, just very thorough. So those two guys, I mean, watching their videos, their YouTube stuff, I mean, they were a great inspiration. And then a whole bunch of other ones, you know, I mean, I could just go on and on. But I literally spend every morning drinking my coffee, smoking a cigarette on my back porch. I'd spend 2 to 3 hours a day watching YouTube videos. And after a few months of watching, and I mean, I got into depth, you know, the bench work, the track, laying the track, ballasting the track, you know, how to make a lake or waterfall or mountains. And I mean, just goes on and on and on. And I spent like 3 months, you know, watching this stuff. And I'd bought a first train I got was a Polar Express line chief that I got to put under the Christmas tree that year. And so in November of 2023, my cousin introduced me to these trains he had. I ordered this line chief, Polar Express, and I had it under the tree that year. And that got the itch going. I mean, I was like, wow, this is great. And 3 months of watching those videos and thinking, I can do this. You know, I thought, I can do this. I think I'd enjoy this. Now, mind you, it's an expensive hobby. There's no doubt about it. Probably why a bunch of us older guys are the ones doing it, you know. But there are reasonably priced. I think pacing yourself and having a budget, knowing what you want to do, and really getting the things you really want, and maybe passing on the things you don't if you're on a tight budget. Or on a budget like most of us in this world, right? But it's just an amazing hobby. My grandboys love it. But 3 months of watching them videos, and then I started doing it, and I built my first part of my layout. And you know, I've heard people say that the layout will never be done, and boy, is that true. Because you think you're done, but you always want to add more. You always want it bigger. I'm at the point where I'm looking for a new house. And I've got a pretty good sized home, but I've got my layout in my, when you walk through my front door, let me see, I'll turn. There's my front door, and that goes into the dining room. But you come through my front door, and this is what you walk into, is my train layout. Now that's 12 foot by 14 feet. I mean, it's not huge, but it ain't small either. But it started out with just this section here. Okay, the first build was 6 feet by 12 feet. And I had two loops. Now, this is a regret I had. I went 048 on these curves and 060 on these. I was new to the hobby, didn't know what I know now. And if I had it to have done over again, I would have went at least 072s out here and maybe 060 for the inner curve. But that's okay, because I'm going to build onto this. These are going to be inner loops, you know, no doubt. There's going to be more to this. A lot more to this with time. So anyhow, just quick on the layout. It started out with just this section here, 6 by 12, like I said. These two loops here used to not curve over this way. They could just go through here and just loop around. It was just two loops that just went around. I did have a switch that popped into, you know, a couple switches there. I've since added more, but I got that done. And there's old snips on my channel. Like, I've only had this channel about a week, and I took a bunch of old text messages, basically, just little quick videos where I'd text my cousin Brian that got me into the hobby, or my brother that was really into what I was doing. And different friends and stuff, and I would text little quick videos, you know, showing them where I was at with my layout, and that's what all of them are. I dumped into this channel. My kids and, you know, different family members and friends kept saying, you need to get on YouTube. People would love to see what you're doing. And so I'm about a week into it, and I'm actually blown away. I mean, I've gotten almost 9,000 views already in just a week. So I think people are into this. And that's exciting. So this is adding to my hobby by doing this and doing this channel. But yeah, I mean, it's a heck of a lot of fun. So getting to the tutorial here a little bit, or not tutorial, but kind of a run through of my layout and what I've got. Started out with this first 6x12, like I said, and loops went there. I then, of course, wanted to add, so I added this chunk here. So now I'm running, 14 feet that way, 12 feet this way is what I've got, with these being 6 feet on the ends here. Now, one thing I did do, and this will change, and like I said, when I buy a new house, I've got this built in a way to where I can break it into 4 different pieces. I'm preparing for that. And when I do move, this original section here, I had a big old desk, and I had built that to originally sit on that desk. And you can see that the way I framed that with them 2x4s laying flat under there. This would just sit on that desk, and I did it this way so it wouldn't slide around. It just sit perfectly on top of that desk, and there was no legs. And so that's why the height is the height. It's desk height. This thing is only I think 36 inches. 36 inches. But when I move, I'm going to bring it up. You want this thing to be like 42 inches. More eye level. I mean, it's great when I'm sitting on this stool here. I sit on this little stool a lot, roll around, but you want things at eye level. So I will change all these legs out, and but I mean, this thing is built pretty darn good. I'll just have taller legs one day. So then we added this. This section later, like I said. Now, I've handmade a lot of this stuff. These tunnel ports, like this is all handmade, with miniature little lumber. You can get at Hobby Lobby or your local hardware store, Home Depot, places like that. And I tell you, when I first built it, all I had was that little Polar Express line sheath, and I didn't build this wide enough originally, so the bigger cars and locomotives were gonna hit. It was great for the little line sheaths and stuff because they're only semi-scale, but you throw 17-inch gondola on here or something, and it would scrub the edges. So I eventually later had to pull them off, make new ones, and then widen this up, and just all learning curves. But I was able to utilize later on the straight tunnels. There's one of them there, one of the originals that were on this hill. So I was able to use those later. But I went all fast track. My cousin had turned me on with the fast track, said that was the best track to go with. And it is a great track, and I think it's great for putting under your Christmas tree, things like that. Future add-ons, I'll probably go with Atlas or Ross or something. I want a more authentic looking, but I don't know. I mean, this fast track does what it needs to do. It's ballasted already with a plastic road bed. I go back and I put actual ballast and glue that on. I mean, I go as far too as these screws, the size screws that you use is a number 4. They fit perfectly for this fast track. I go with number 4 by 3/4 inch long. You've got about a 1/2 inch from top of this track to the bottom side of the track. And so it gives you a good 1/4 inch of meat sticking through. But I go back and I paint all the screws even. And I tried several different colors of paint. The color that seems to match this fast track the best is elephant gray. Just if somebody finds something that's a better match, let me know. But elephant gray seemed to be the closest match for that I came across. When I first built this first section, I went with a lot of Menards buildings. One, because they were affordable and I could get a lot now without having to pre-order, and the price was right. And so that's kind of what I did in the beginning. I jumped on, I got this water tower. I mean, this is for, of course, putting water in your steam locomotives. Great product. There's no lights or anything on it. You know, of course, I set it. I did ground covers. I put a little walk path like somebody was walking from the locomotive to it. You know, I threw a couple bison in there walking around. I lived up in Alaska for about 15 years, so I themed this layout on Alaska. It's kind of what I'm themed after. But these Menards buildings, the hotel, of course, I modified these things a bit. You know, like when I made my road, I tied into coming into the hotel there and got, you know, you got a fellow walking with a briefcase or suitcase or what have you. There's a lady walking her dog. I think that actually came with the hotel, but I did things like that Cadillac is an Elvis Presley replica. I got Elvis, it's not really Elvis, it's just a figure to me that kind of looked like Elvis. I threw in front there with his driver, and you know, got a lady taking his picture and different things like this. But this Gamer of Thrones is a plumbing shop I got from Menards. It's pretty neat. It's got a toilet there. Look here, it spins around, and it come with some pretty neat, you know, a couple pallet with some toilets and pushing a dolly there. There's a dog. Every one of Menards buildings has a German Shepherd, has Jack. The owner, John Menard, that owns Menards, I guess that was their family dog, Jack. So he includes Jack on every one of his buildings and stuff. He's always going to get Jack the dog. Even on the remotes of their locomotives, actually. I got one of my grandsons. There's a Menards. I think it's an F7 there with some boxcars and a caboose. But I mean, even on the remotes, if I'm not mistaken, yeah, there he is. There's Jack the dog. Jack the German Shepherd. But even Menards puts them on the remotes. I've got yeah, so we got the plumbing there. Then this was just a multi-purpose building that I repurposed. We did good putting some matching trucks, and you know, I threw a rose bush, a fire hydrant. You know, I already had a couple people that were standing there working, and I wanted all the trucks and stuff to kind of match in color. This natural power and light, this was a Menards building. I handmade those spools of wire and put that fencing in. That's a Woodland Scenics O-scale cyclone fencing that I put in. And there next to it's one of my TMCC lock-ons that protects the track. I've got two. There's one back there hid behind them trees. So the one by the building there takes care of my lower loops and protects those, and the one back there in the trees is for my upper loops to protect these guys. This tank here, this Texaco oil tank, I actually picked that up from Mr. Muffins, and I painted it. It came with some different decals. I used the Texaco just because I have a Texaco gas station and some trucks and tow trucks and things. And so I went Texaco. The pump jack though that's sitting there, that came from Menards. I just repainted it. It comes all black, and it has like, what do they call it? Something Creek. Darn it. They call their, I can't remember for the life of me what they call their something Creek. But anyhow, it had that sticker on there, and I peeled it off, and I repainted and I weathered it a bit, put a fence around it. And this switch tower here was also Menard's building. Let me see, I've got my layout pushed. And one thing I did, I have a wood floor. One thing I did do, if you can see there, I put carpet on all my legs. I put carpet feet and sprayed adhesive and cut the carpet. And this allows me to be able to pull this out from the road, or not from the road, but pull it out from the wall whenever I want to work on it. And I keep it tucked kind of tight here in the corner, right next to this curtain and that wall over there. But I'm able to grab this and really kind of slide it out to get room all around it. So that's why I put the carpet feet. Yeah, these Menard buildings, they're good for the value that you get with them. We got in that general store. Let's see if I can, got the stretch to show you that a little bit. Then we did the gas station. I really went into, putting oil stains on my parking lot, and different people standing around pumping gas, and guy walking out from his green pickup there, and takes go tow truck. I really like these power lines, these power poles and lines from Woodland Scenics. That gave it a good touch, I thought. It's got the safety guide wires, that go up there to them, but the trees is something. I've got 300 and something trees on this layout, believe it or not. I mean, you just can't have enough trees, it seems like. I mean, there's different value packs that I get with these pines that come in 24 to a pack and have like 3 different heights. And I mean, I've picked up some like this from Hobby Lobby, but I really enjoy the, like the maples. No, they're one of my favorites out of all the trees. I think I've got them scattered in different places, but those maples turned out real nice. The big shade trees, these lodgepole pines, I love those. These spruce pines, and yeah, I just love the trees. The Menards actually sells trees. I mean, and the only problem with their trees, they all look the same. So I don't like to put a lot of them in the same spot, but I'll scatter. There's a Menards tree. I get another one over here. They sell them in fall colors, like over here. I put, a couple there with the fall colors. Now, I'm originally from Mississippi, and my favorite tree is a magnolia. I cannot find an O-scale magnolia tree for nothing. If anybody knows where I can find an O-scale magnolia, please let me know. I was able to find some dogwoods. That's also one of my favorite trees in real life, is a dogwood. And I've got a few of these dogwoods, but I really want me a big magnolia tree. Now, we've got the Menards train station. This little train depot, I actually built that. That's a scratch built. Made a metal weathered roof on it, and I framed all this with miniature wood, and I actually have let's see if I can see it, LED. All right, let me try to minimize here and see if I can. LED little strip lights under there. Those actually came when I bought the 4.5 volt Menards transformer. It came with a couple of them strip lights, and so I put used to one of those. I actually drilled a hole all the way through the length of that post to run the wiring, so you can't see any of the wiring. We've done things like this American flag pole, put in a Woodland Scenics spotlight, to accent that. Also, when I was making this mountain, I wanted to keep this kind of natural and not have it built up with a lot of stuff like this industrial part of the town. I had this cabin here, right? But this side of the mountain was real dark, and I just wanted something to give some accent. Now, I love the good Lord and thought, I need something representing God on here, and the good Lord and Christ. And so I made this little wooden cross. And, here in the States, driving down the interstate, you'll see, wooden crosses on the side of the interstate lit up. And so that came to my mind. I'd love to have a cross. So I did that. I made this little wooden cross, painted it white. And same thing I did with that flagpole. I put a spotlight in the ground to accent that. Now, when it's nighttime in here, it looks really sharp. This Woodland Scenics cabin is great. I got it about first part of the year. I'd pre-ordered it and waited about a year for it. But if you look in through that screen door, you can see the fireplace in there flickering. And then I got lucky and found this little LED with the red and the orangish yellow light. It flickers like a fire. And I took some cotton and kind of stretched it and put on the top of that to give the illusion of smoke. Then I handmade that little bench next to it there. Now, these rocks that are going around this fire, these are real Alaskan rocks that I picked up when I was at work in Alaska and brought home with me for the purpose of this fire pit. So I've got a touch of Alaska, real Alaska on this layout. Thought that was pretty cool. Got that Menards truck there. Thought that'd give a good accent with the headlights shining. I'm kind of themed for 1950s and 60s with my automobiles. I've got the Alaska Railroad bus and a couple buses actually, and like Dapper Dan and different pickups and cars. And speaking of cars, this is one thing I was real excited about. I grew up watching the Dukes of Hazzard. I just loved that show. And I'd been looking for General Lee from Dukes of Hazzard forever. And Diecast Direct ended up doing pre-orders on them. And the only ones I could find in proper scale was like a resin made from China, and it was like $100. And I was able to get this Diecast Direct's where I got it. And it was, that's die-cast metal, made real good. And it was like $25. I pre-ordered, and a few months later, I finally got it in. I just got that recently, so real excited about that. So there's a few of these replicas, like the General Lee from Dukes of Hazzard, Elvis's Cadillac I told you about. Got the Cadillac from The Godfather. Just neat little stuff like that. Little Easter eggs, I guess you'd call it. A lot of trees. I really enjoy my animals. I've got different little, like moose, and these are O-scale. And when I get up on the hills, up on the higher stuff, I go a little smaller with the moose, like my black bear. Just because it's elevated, I want to give the illusion that it's far away. This radio tower, this was a kit I got from Muffins. I put together, had to glue. It was pretty meticulous. It's neat, those got a blinking light on the top. And when I lived in Alaska, I went with these call letters, KASH, for Cash Country 107.5. There's a radio station I used to listen to when I lived up that way. Let's see. And when we did this build on here, this add-on with this mountain, this is all foam board, spray foam. I used aluminum window screen to kind of make forms, and then use spray foam, a lot of carving, a lot of painting, a lot of ground covers. I've got different videos posted on here with it, but there's some of my rock work, but I thought it turned out real good. But I gotta say, this little pond here, a little lake or pond, at the bottom of the mountain here is one of my favorite things I did. You're working with 2-part epoxy. It's, I mean, it's a little nerve-wracking to do because there's no room for error with it, but I think it turned out great with the water effects and just the, you know, using the white paint to dry brush and create the ripples and using all the different to make the ripples, you know, using a clear gloss Mod Podge and creating ripples and highlighting it with the white paint. And I even used a cotton, I don't know if you can really tell, but right there at the bottom there, I put like a cotton and stretched it out to kind of give that illusion of the water, you know, foamy water splashing and whatnot when the waterfall hit the pond. But I originally had that waterfall going up there, and you know, all this was just lush and green, and I thought, man, where's that water coming from? And so then I decided to snow cap the top of my mountain here, and that's what's feeding that waterfall. The snow's melting and running down the mountain. I created this here, this fishing scene. That's me and my grandboys, my 3 grandboys. They're sitting there fishing. Made that fishing pole out of a piece of wire, you know, to where I could bend it, a little solid piece of wire so I could bend it to hold that form. Painted it red and made the fishing line out of a hot glue gun hair, believe it or not. And, you know, those annoying hairs that get on your nerves when you're using a hot glue gun. Well, I decided to use one of those hairs. I seen it on a video actually, and came up with the idea from a gentleman I'd seen on YouTube, and I was able to glue that right into there. It looks like that line goes right into the water. Bit over like nice and tight, like we got a fish on. Got us a couple grizzlies coming out with a fish in their mouth, and yeah. But this little campfire, I just did this recently. I'm pretty stoked about that. When it's dark in here and I got it going, that smoke effect really looks nice. Let's see. Some more of my rock work there. I think I was telling you I'd handmade all these tunnel ports and that. Let's see, let's just kind of scoot around. There's a bear cave that I made when I carved into this. Got a couple black bears hanging around. Different wildlife. Different little trees there. I'll do another video kind of talking about my trains, but I'll just give you a quick thing on the trains here. Well, one thing, these ore cars, I am going to redo the loads on these. I don't really like that red. There's no red material like that in Alaska. I'm thinking of actually going with this rock that we ballast with and taking these out and gluing these on there to where these ore cars are hauling railroad ballast. I think that'd look pretty good with those ore cars. The ore cars, I don't know if you know this or not, and you probably do, a lot of you do. They're shorter because ore cars are made for hauling more dense material like gravel and sand, and actually iron was, I think, their original intent. And they couldn't use the regular coal cars like these because the coal was so much lighter than that type of material we're talking about. And so it would ruin the axles. So they designed these smaller, pretty much coal car, except half the size, right? These ore cars. And they did these because of the amount of weight from that dense material wouldn't mess the axles up. And so that's what these were made for. It's what I've read on anyway. If you know more about it, I mean, I think knowledge is we're always looking to learn around here. But yeah, I think I'm just gonna, I don't really like that red. I'm gonna make that look a little more realistic and change the look of that instead of red. Alaska, they would haul gold at times in these. I may do some gold, but I actually think I'm gonna just go with this balance. I think that looks sharp. I've got these disconnect cars with these logs on them. I've got a Heisler that I'm waiting on from Lionel. I think they're going to be at Lionel in the next week or two. So I mean, we should be seeing those Heislers here in November sometime for folks that's got Heislers ordered. And I ordered the Blue Jay Heisler. I'm real excited about it. And you know, in that cow log, they didn't do any of the disconnect cars to go along with these. They did, you know, the Christmas scheme and I think Halloween, you know, and they had some disconnect cars with like porta potties and little crane, and those would have been great. I wish they would have made them for each of the railroads that they did. They did like half a dozen railroads in the Heislers, but I did get the caboose. They did have this little green caboose that I'm going to run with this log consist. I'm going to have that little green caboose, but my Heisler is what's going to pull this. I'm excited to get that. That's my next locomotive coming in. But so that's the plan for that. To where currently I've got this this little docksider. This is a Lionel 2.0, and it's a fantastic little locomotive. That was a real locomotive that's actually on display at the Alaska Railroad Museum in Anchorage, Alaska. They had this sitting out front of that building. But you know, this is really just, this docksider is really just like a switcher for moving stuff around the yard is what the intent was. But I like pulling my Christmas cars with it. You know, I get those MTH Premier lighted Christmas cars that Legacy Station actually does custom runs on those, and I've been adding to those. I've got a couple more of those coming in this year. But anyhow, and I found that locomotive. I seen this on Eric's Trains. Eric Siegel had a video of this, like the cutest little locomotive ever made or something, he called it. And I looked everywhere trying to find it and got lucky and found one at Nicholas Smith Trains. He only had one, and I was able to pick this up about a year ago. And I think this came from the 2022, one of the 2022 cow logs, Lionel. That's a Line Chief 2.0. And then what else I got on the rails right now? I've got two of these Lionel Legacy GP30s, road number 2000, road number 2504. I grabbed those from Mr. Muffins. Those were from Lionel's 2023 Volume 2 catalog. We've got the Alaska Mountain. That's a Lionel Legacy. It was either in, I think that was in Volume 2 of 2024. And same goes with, it may have been the big book this year. I can't remember. It's either the January catalog or the Volume 2 of 2024. And we've also got the Louisville, Nashville Heavy Mikado from that same catalog. I'll do a video running some of this too, so you can see it smoking and whistle blowing, whistle steam, and hear some crew talk and how it sounds and stuff. But both of these locomotives are just fantastic. I got the Mountain here from Mr. Muffins. I got the Heavy Mikado from Legacy Station. Let's see, I've got a couple, what I got over here? Oh, I've got a couple SD70 Max, Alaska Railroad SD70 Max. Those are fantastic. Road number 4001 actually has a motor, so that's the one that does the pulling. The road number 4006 doesn't have a motor. It's got a super bass in it. You know, it's got the steam and the sounds and everything. But that's the one that actually pulls. But I got them both just because they just look great lashed up. You know, I love seeing them lashed up. That blue and yellow is beautiful. Yeah, I've got quite a bit of the. I started out this model in Alaska, but Alaska's tough to get. You know, smaller railroad. There's not a whole lot of it that comes out. And so I've been limited on what I could get. It's like these coal cars, they were in the same catalog as the Mountain. Thought that was great to do a consist, coal train here. I had a couple of the Atlas Premier Alaska Railroads. I had 2 of these already, but I was able to pick up all of those from that catalog. They came from Muffin as well. Now, I do quite a bit with Mr. Muffins, but I really like Legacy Station. Brian Sheffield and Legacy Station. For me, it's just a couple-hour drive. I can actually get there in person. Muffins is good in regards to, he does a lot of custom runs, and he doesn't require down payments on pre-orders and things like that. Tough to get him on the phone. He's busy. He's one of the bigger shops, and it seems like email's the best way to kind of communicate with them. But Legacy Station always answers the phone, always returns your calls, and Brian, the owner there, Brian Sheffield, he's just a great guy. Eric Siegel of Eric's Trains turned me on to them. And it's just, I'd say that's my favorite train store, is Legacy Station. But Mr. Muffins is good too, though. They've been good to me so far. So, but yeah, I'll do another video kind of talking trains. But that's my layout. That's where we're at so far. What's next? Well, I had left off on my bushes and stuff about right there and here. So I need to continue on with bushes and fine tuning of scenery all the way to about this point here is where I left off on the bushes and just so I need some fine tuning here. I have already went and painted all the screws. Elephant gray, everybody, that's the color. I went through 4 or 5 different gray paints. Elephant gray it's just about a perfect match. You can get it at acrylic paint at Walmart for like 50 cents or 60 cents, but just a matte elephant gray if you wanted to go as far as painting you little screws there to blend them in. Let's see. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I got some bushes to do there, and then even down here, I need to continue some bushes along this area. Because when I did the remodel, I used to have some trees that were planted through here. And I haven't put trees back yet because I didn't really want to take away from my view of that's kind of my center piece there, but I didn't want to take away the view of the train station and stuff. So I may put a couple of trees still yet in the middle here, but I used to have a whole row of them. But I may get, if somebody could tell me where to find a O-scale magnolia tree, I'd put me a couple big pretty magnolias here is what I would do. But yeah, I don't know. I may put some of these maples and maybe some lodgepoles or pines or something, just kind of scattered a little bit so it doesn't take away from my train station area. But anyhow, we'll do another video on some trains to kind of talk trains and the rolling stock. I've got 20 right now. This L&N is pulling mainly Alaska stuff, just because I didn't want to change them all out to try out my new steam engine. But I've got, I think, 28 Louisville, Nashville rolling stock, with gondolas and boxcars and different Dixieline stuff. But I think there's 27, 28 of them. So I've got a pretty good Louisville, Nashville train that I could pull. That's actually one of my Louisville, Nashvilles there. One of the reefer cars. But yeah, I just didn't want to change that out. Right now, it's pretty good size consist on there now. This thing is from here. It goes all the way around that tunnel and it pops out over there. There's the end of it. I've got probably roughly 30 cars, all Alaska, on that right now. But yeah, I want to run those. Someone said they wanted to see this one run, so I want to load up the Louisville, Nashville cars on there and give that guy a whirl. Set the camera up in a good spot and run them and let y'all see it. But yeah, it's always good to put little Easter eggs. See that little bald eagle there in that tree? I got Easter eggs everywhere. But anyhow, that's my work so far. A lot more that I want to do. You know, always want to get bigger and always more detail to go, but I think we're in a pretty good spot for now. Let me know what you think. Like I said earlier, I'm new to this YouTube, about a week into it, and you know, hit the subscribe and the like. I'll keep doing this. Anyhow, I guess that's all I got for now. Y'all have a good night. Take care now.